Just let me know when we're on.
Just keep going.
Wait, are we supposed to be on this one?
No, not yet. Keep going. Keep going. You got to make it look good for the cameras. Keep going. Soon. Keep going. Alright, he's warmed up now, guys. Welcome to episode 68. Don't even try. Don't even try. So, guys, today what we're going to do is, there was a lot of questions and a lot of feedback on air shrimp. So we're going to continue with that. We're going to need clarification. Piotr, from your question yesterday, we were not sure what you meant by having the guy on your hips. So you're in back control, and I'm assuming that you're talking about arm locking him this way, okay? But he lays on your hips. Enrique's interpretation was different. So what was your interpretation?
I'm laying this way.
That he's laying heavy on my left leg, so that's okay, I'm just choking. But if you can clarify which scenario you were asking about while we're going over air shrimp with a guillotine. Sounds like egg.
Like a dish.
Yeah, I know. I will have a combination number 3, shrimp, air shrimp and a guillotine. With fries. To go. So let's look at it. This is very, very important. So I actually use this technique quite a lot. So if I'm in half guard, I will guillotine the guy. And now, what's the most important thing is I'm okay to go down. I am not okay to go down like this. This is a major problem. I just allowed him to reverse me and pass my guard. Okay? So that's a major, major problem. So if I'm in half guard, I need to assume, if I feel that he's going to get on top, I will, basically, I'm sort of air shrimping. I'm not really putting my feet on the ground that much. Go ahead. So I need to create an angle pretty much perpendicular to him to make sure that when he gets here, he's got a choice. Get choked, or just basically hunker down on the bottom, which allows me to pass his guard and wind up in a very strong position. Okay? So let's look at it again. Sometimes, if I'm in half guard and he just turns, I may put my foot on the ground. But sometimes he actually gets, in this case, his left leg. He gets a butterfly guard, underhook, and tosses me. So I need to make that movement while I'm flying through the air. Hence, air shrimp. So, go. Say hello to my little friend. Okay? So you saw what I did is I was shrimping in the air as I was getting tossed. If I don't, you're basically going to wind up 2 lined up. Wind up 2 lined up. I'm a poet. You're going to wind up lined up with his body, which allows him now not only to sweep you, but also to pass your guard fairly easily. Okay? So this movement is very, very important when we're talking about air shrimping. Like I said, if I can, I'll put my foot on the ground. If I can't, I will do it in the air. All right? So guys, I know a lot of you had questions, so please start writing them down. Hopefully we'll get a clarification from Piotr. Guys, this is one of the very important things. We talked about, if you go through the episodes, well, we did 9 monthly ones before we did the antivirus daily. So 68 daily and 9. So basically, we talk about a lot of these episodes. about transitions and managing transitions and positioning yourself in the transitions to either have good defense or go straight into an offensive mode. Very, very underrated and very under sort of represented aspect of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mike, you're looking very intently at the screen. Do we have a question already or clarification?
Yeah. I was looking at it username. But Piotr's not on yet. But we do have a question from Yancy from the Academy.
What's up, Yancy? Yes.
He's asking...
Give me a question.
Good morning, guys. What do you do if you have your opponent's back with both hooks in and they hunker down with their arms crossed protecting their neck?
Oh, yes. Nice question. We're going to come back to the air shrimp. Yancy might be going on the list.
You're easy to find. I know where you train.
No. So, and I'm being nice to him. Let's take it a step further. You know, so he covers it. Guys, your forearm will certainly open him up. All right, so it's just a question of how rough of a game you apply. If the person, he's utilizing somewhat realistic and somewhat unrealistic, from a self-defense perspective, it's a very unrealistic defense. It's just temporary. And you could take it away from him. You know, you have a lot of, you know, self-proclaimed masters in martial arts where they think they can, you know, do things to people if they ever got it, you know, in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappling situation. One of them is, and this actually was on YouTube. So first of all, the guy on top said, you know, if I ever wind up in a triangle, I'd bite his balls. First of all, if you don't train grappling, low probability you're going to wind up on top. High probability you're going to wind up on bottom. Can you bite my balls, Enrique? No. And let me tell you something. If somebody even tried to do that, guys, they will not only wind up choked out, but also with a broken arm. All right? So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes people think they can defend by keeping their chin down. It's very easy. You don't have to be that nasty, but if you put your forearm under their nose, their neck will open up very quickly. I saw that in a tournament in Brazil. Like literally the guy was defending really, really well, tucked in chin. The guy didn't even try to lift his head up. He basically wrapped his arm around the bridge of his nose and just started squeezing. I was cringing. I couldn't even look at it. I was like this. So I thought the guy's nose was going to explode on his face. Yeah, of course he got the choke. So the point is, you can break them up. Same thing as if the guy's on the ground playing dead. And so if I like the guy, I'm going to say, listen, dude, this is not a viable defense. So I strongly suggest you start moving. At least you'll figure out what is maybe not the right way to try to escape, or I can make you move. So which should you choose? Oh, Enrique chose not to move.
No, I want to move.
Yeah, this is very brutal. So you can always make people move, and always, you know, if they're in a position that is untenable. Again, tucking your chin down and sort of, you know, protecting your neck like this. It's an untenable position. Might take some time to break him down, but it's longer term. And when I say longer term, I'm talking about a minute or two. It's not an untenable position. You can always open him up. So, let's go.
And Yancy follows up with, thank you guys. Sorry, Enrique, for showing up to the academy with glasses and a fake mustache.
Any other questions, Mike?
We have Vincent MMA Life asking, Coach, can you show us a lockdown half guard pass when your opponent also has an underhook on the same side?
Okay. How you feeling about that? So there's a variety of lockdown passes that you can utilize. I like to move up high. This is where that air shrimp comes in really handy. So there's a lot of ways to defend. So first of all, I try not to ever have my opponent in a position to lock me down by hiding my right foot. But if you make a mistake and you wind up locked down, my first course of action is going to try to be to stand up. He can't move now. He literally cannot move. He cannot disengage.
Tap.
That's my number one go-to. But if you can stand up, if I can't stand up, so what I'm going to try to do is go forward, which now starts to free up my knee. Now he might try to switch. He realizes he lost the lockdown, so now he's going to try to come up. Again, you saw me post my left foot, so it's not a full air shrimp. It's half an air shrimp. But if he gets, instead of switches his left foot into lifting me, I will have to make that shrimp in the air. So start to get underneath and start to lift. So now I'm making that shrimp in the air. I'm threatening an E-bar. He's defending until I get my anaconda. Okay? So again, if you can post, you could shrimp, but you have to make a big shrimp. If you cannot post, you have to learn to shrimp in air. And what I mean by that, there is nothing for you to post. So basically what you're doing is tilting your body in a way so you land perpendicular and you contracting your body. If that makes sense.
He says, thank you, coach. Does this also work if your opponent already has your leg fully straightened?
No. So if I'm going to turn into the other side. Now I'm up. Okay? So if I'm fully straightened out, I'm going to get an underhook on my left side, move my foot to the right side, I swim out, and now I'm out. Okay? So my number one priority is to submit Enrique. Okay. You keep going. I think we'll be serving anaconda for lunch today.
No exotic animals.
No exotic animals.
And the lots of peers asking, can the air shrimp be applied to every sweep situation?
Theoretically. Usually I use it when it's a butterfly lift. The problem is some sweeps are much more controlling, so it's a little bit harder. You have to lighten up on his control to be able to do that. So if you know, they, you know, so again, you can, but say if I'm in Enrique's guard and he just gets a body lock on me, or I get a body lock and just sweeps me. Yeah, it's going to be very, very hard for me to shrimp because he's controlling my hips. I did a little bit at the very end just to change the angle a little bit. So it's at the end, I changed the angle a little bit, but it did not get me out of trouble. So it depends if you can move. So some of the sweeps, if he controls your hips so much that you can't move, it's going to be very difficult. So I don't know if you saw the very last one. As I was getting swept, he allowed me to air shrimp just a little bit, which I would still do, even if I could do a little bit, because I don't want to land exactly where he intends me to land, because that maintains his control. I always want him to overshoot or undershoot a little bit. And then those micro adjustments now allow me to sort of start to put my legs in place or shrimp. Now I can shrimp the other opposite direction. So it allows you to do other things. You may not be able to lighten up the control fully, but maybe you lighten it up 10%. And then as he's adjusting, you now move a different way. Now it's 25%. There's no such thing, but I'm trying to illustrate the point that initially you just free yourself 10%, then 25%, then 60%. And now you're fully free, and then you go immediately into offensive mode.
And Ryan D'Souza is asking, Coach, do you have any do's and don'ts for flow rolling at your academy?
Yeah, if you're turning purple, you're not flow rolling. If I hear guys going like and turning purple, they're not flow rolling anymore. The most important thing is when you're flow rolling, you can flow roll at pretty high pace and at a fairly high intensity, but the most important thing is to try to match the intensity levels. Injuries happen, or one of the guys is not observing the rules of the flow roll when there's a big intensity mismatch, where one guy is going full bore and the other guy is like just, you need to have a good match on the intensity level. That's why you need to have a good training partner that can kind of, because sometimes, this happens to me a lot actually, like sometimes when I start light, people are just getting caught left and right in submissions, and they think by increasing the intensity and strength that the result is going to be different. No, because then I match the intensity and the result is the same. They just keep getting caught harder and harder and harder, because, okay, you choose to up the intensity, no problem, I will stay with you.
And the Lots of Pierce says, it looks like every time he tries to sweep you, you jump higher against his body and take your hips further from him to put your legs on his hips.
Yeah, I always try to create space, whether, usually by curling your body like a shrimp. I believe if the shrimp is uncooked, he's straight, but once they get cooked, they curl. So we're talking about a cooked shrimp. So I'm always trying to move as I'm going through the air, move in a way that allows me to put my feet on the hip, or kind of put myself perpendicular so I can jam my shin inside to put it back in guard. So as I'm being swept, I'm looking to regain my guard, but not just any guard. I'm looking to regain an offensive guard, be it split guard. If I have head control, I'm looking to maintain the head control while I'm putting him in a position relative to my body, which allows me to finish the choke or switch from guillotine to anaconda. That's probably my number one easiest follow-up submission sequence. Guillotine to anaconda. And done. Like I said, it's an easy transition if you air shrimp as you're flying through the air. All right. So I don't know if Piotr, it's funny, the 168, I think he's been 67 out of 67. So he had a question and we were going to answer it, but maybe we'll wait let's answer it. So I'm going to go with my interpretation. So when you're in somebody's back, okay, a lot of times what happens is the guy's escaping. To escape the back control, he goes perpendicular, tries to put his back on the ground. So what happens, people a lot of times, they wait too long. Now he lays on the leg. Now you lost the ability to finish him with the arm lock. You still have something viable. Here you could try to mount, which is not going to be easy because I need to get my right leg from underneath him. Okay? So I can still mount or go into an arm triangle. But I've lost the ability to arm lock him, which of course any high level guy knows. So what he's going to continue to do is slip his head and continue to shrimp up. So now as I'm trying to mount, he might counter me, and now I have to defend a leg lock. Okay? So I believe this is what Piotr was asking about. That as he's on somebody's back and he's about to switch into an arm lock, the guy lays heavy on his hips so he cannot air shrimp, twist his body. The biggest reason for that is people wait too long. So look at my right leg, guys. It's already up in the air. So it's not underneath him. If it's underneath him, now I can still try to mount, going into an arm triangle, which is not a bad outcome, but a guy that's really good will try to keep his weight on your leg, so rather than arching to turn the right way, what he's going to try to do is keep his weight on the leg and just kind of slide up like a snake up. Mike, you...
He actually just chimed in and said yes. That was my question.
So guys, Fox is right again. Yes? Fox is always right. Hashtag. So the reason for that, again, watch my right leg. So as I'm on Enrique's back, this is a problem. That means I waited too long to transition into the arm lock. So the negatives of this position, where I am right now, if you don't stop moving, I will submit you hard. I'm trying to explain things. So I can still mount. So this is critical, all right? What allows me to mount is the head control. If I don't have head control, I'm probably going to wind up in his guard. I might wind up in an Ashigurami. Okay? So anytime he lays on my leg, once the problem happens, first of all, it shouldn't happen, but if it does, so if he lays on my leg, I'm looking to control his head. I'm going to go under his head, and now I'm going to switch into an arm triangle. All right? But it becomes a bit of a battle because if he can maintain control of my right leg, chances are he's going to escape. Now, how do we stop that from even happening? So if I'm on his back and I want to switch to an arm lock, look at my right leg already. It's not here. It's not his lower back. This is a problem. It's up high. I'm actually pushing him down. So I can turn I'm not really air shrimping. It looks like I'm air shrimping because I'm not posting on the ground. But I'm using his body to allow basically I'm using him as a structural support for me to shrimp. Once I'm here, guys, I have a bunch of really good options. Obviously, I have the ability to arm lock him. I have an ability to triangle him. So this is actually a better way for me to go. So anytime I'm on somebody's back, and I'm thinking an arm lock, my right leg comes up high, close to his shoulder. Not down here, high. If I can go, huh? What happened? Why are you crying?
I'm not crying. My eyes are sweating.
So, does that make sense? So sometimes it looks like you air shrimping, but you're really not. I'm using his body as a platform for me to shrimp off rather than the ground. Generally speaking, guys, that's a better way because you're doing two things at the same time. You're moving your body into the desired direction or position while you kind of keeping him somewhat less mobile because he's carrying your weight. Do you understand how huge of a point this is? So utilizing your opponent's body as a form of support for your legs or your feet to shrimp instead of the ground. Two benefits, okay? Usually 3 actually, because usually when you do that, your hips a little higher. Once you touch the ground, it's your hips on the ground. 2 is you're using his body to put yourself in the position where you want to be. And 3, making him carry your weight while you're doing this. All right, so if I ever have a choice between shrimping off his body, it looks like an air shrimp, it's not, or using the ground, I will use his body. And you should strive to do the same. It's very difficult to do that when you're just starting out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but come blue, purple belt, you should start to pay attention to that. Okay? So let's look at this arm lock one more time. This way, so that you can see. So I'm in Enrique's back, and I'm starting to think arm lock. My leg starts to drift up. If I keep it down here, yeah. I might be, well, now I've lost him. I don't have good head control with my right hand. Now I might lose the arm triangle. Mike is doing this. That's how you shoo away chickens. I guess we're getting too close to the camera. Where's the chicken feed? So, when I'm on somebody's back and I'm thinking arm lock, I already want to position myself. It looks like I'm air shrimping because my feet don't touch the ground, but I'm using his body. So now, I have still back control, so if he sits up, I can go back to back control. I can go to the arm lock, and I can go trap him here. This is very, very bad. Or triangle, and that's done. I hope that answers your question.
Piotr and Kanakyoshi says, hashtag Fox is always right.
Yes. Not always. A lot of times, but not always.
And Jim Taylor is asking, do you ever worry about someone toe holding you when you put your initial hooks on the back? Or is the knowledge of straightening the leg the main defense?
It's very hard to toe hold somebody.
What do you mean, like with your legs? Like when you cross your feet?
Or if I cross my feet. I don't cross my feet that much. If I do, I'm like, I don't recommend unless you have really flexible ankles. So if I do, as soon as I feel him moving, I disengage. If you can't do that, like literally on a split-second basis, you should not cross your feet ever, unless you have super flexible ankles. All right, but even if so go ahead, get your toe hold. He needs to have his head closer to my toes. So from here, I would not toe hold anybody. Go ahead, give it another shot. It's easy to take away. A lot of times, you know, he's especially very good at it when somebody goes for a toe hold. When they backstep, he winds up hunting for my back. I literally, when I backstep, I go for a knee bar, heel hook, but not toe hold. If I go for toe hold, it's like, I might as well have him say, all right, start hunting for my back. Now I'm going from an offensive mode into heavily defensive mode. 1 minute left. How did the time fly so fast?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. So, does that answer that toe hold question?
Yes, he says it was more about the person doing a 2-on-1 for the foot. He says someone just pulled up with both hands and got him.
Oh, yeah. You know that one? This is incidental contact in jiu-jitsu, guys. And I'm being nice to him. You know, there's certain things, you know, I got once I got caught with that toe hold over, so when I go on Wakata, one time, I was a purple belt. A guy from Brazil was training with us for a few months, caught me with it once. Not anymore, guys. So now, anytime somebody I don't give him a chance to attack. So those are, to be honest with you, that's a bit of these are moves that kind of can work once or twice if you've been training for a while. But as soon as now you're hip to it, as soon as the guy tries to go for it, it just it's easy to take away. So I would just pay attention to it. As soon as you feel him grabbing the toes, just make sure you pull his head back. Once you pull his head back, it's gone.
And one last question before we close out. Moises from the Academy is asking, hey coach, a little off topic, but I found myself in knee on belly a lot at work. And it's been great for control, but whenever I try to attack, for example, armbar, kimura, I tend to lose my balance. What am I doing wrong?
Okay. Put your head there. So, if you do a knee on belly, I assume it's law enforcement, because otherwise there's a real problem here.
Would you try?
So a knee on belly, it's good to put pressure on somebody who doesn't expect it. You got to make sure, with knee on belly, especially when you're dealing with somebody unruly, you got to protect the family jewels, okay? So I usually, knee on belly, this puts a lot of weight, but also immobilizes me. And as the guy is kind of twisting around, I can't move. So a lot of times, I prefer this. So your family jewels, to some extent, are protected, at least from his right hand. What I would do is, now you have, this is going to be good, okay? So the other thing you could do is so understand, when you have knee on the belly, it's a very controlling position. If I usually post on his shoulders, if I lose balance, go post the hands. But you got to be careful. If he starts to grab your wrists, now you don't have the support. So you got to make, so this will keep you where you want to be, but also now I would change into mount. If I want to put him into a hole, kimura being a perfect one, or any other hole, what I'll do is instead of keeping my knee on the belly with the leg flared out, it's not easy to move other than, in one direction. I would put this knee down, and rather than putting down on the floor, I will pin his arm. Okay. Now, depending, of course, he's going to turn to you. Now you have the kimura. Okay? So, again, understand, knee on belly is sort of showing you have control. In tournaments, usually people get, I think, 2 points, 3 points, IBJJ? 2 points for knee on the belly for 3 seconds. But it is a bit of a balancing act, especially if the guy on the bottom is kind of freaking out and flaring out. So I would recommend, for law enforcement, I would recommend, again, I'm assuming that is your... So rather than flaring out, pin. So the only possible, now he can only come to you. But now his right arm is out of commission right now. Notice what I'm doing with my instep. You cannot have your foot, because now he can move. So, and now I know I only have to worry about one arm. That's his left arm. So I can do 2 on 1.
Tap, tap.
Then those push-ups didn't really help you out that much. Was it? I know so you can use chokes, but now so you get knee on the belly, boom. All right? And now I'm worried about one hand. You can pin it to the ground, connect, and
Tap.
okay? So it's a lot more controlling by bringing your knee to the ground. The knee that is not on his belly, to the ground. You lighten up the pressure on his chest, but also you're able to move into other positions a lot easier.
And Moises says, another light bulb moment. Thanks again, Fox.
My pleasure. I hope to see you and everybody else of my students on the mat soon.
And GM Baseball says he's a preschool teacher.
All right, guys. Just like that, we're out of time. See you tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for episode 69.
Nice.
Guys, be considerate. Guys, think about how your actions impact others. The biggest reason why we're in this predicament is people not using their heads. So don't forget to use your head for jiu-jitsu and for thinking. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Stay well, stay safe, and try to be nice.